Hey guys, a few people were asking, so here's the quick update to the top 100 tier list using data from the top 100. Just a quick reminder, these tier lists are based on my personal opinion as a top 100 player and now a 4x master player, but also they are informed by the pick rate of the Pokemon within the top 100. So for example, I think Venusaur is really good, but there are clearly better Pokemon than him, because if he was as good as I feel he is, he would be picked more. At least that's my general way of looking at it. So let's jump right into it. In last place, we have Absol. Absol was picked one time in the top 100 by Toon from Team Love Disc. They played them a handful of times, maybe 8 or 9 times, and they ended up with a positive win rate. So Absol is playable. It's just kind of hard to justify their inclusion when there are just so many better junglers. Next we have Talonflame. Talonflame was picked 3 times. You can still do the weird split push gimmick. You can get really good steals off. It's a bit harder when you're up against things like Greninja or Lucario that have executes, but you can get steals pretty safely with Fly, and you can do Fly one-shots on squishy Pokemon. They suffer from the same problem that all the speedsters suffer from, and that's that, I mean, they're not Greninja or Cinderace or some of the other guys we'll talk about. Next we have, one moment, let me bring this up. Just to make sure I'm correct here, since I do this unscripted. Oh, we have Gengar. So Gengar had 3 picks, down from 6, so about a 50% decline. Gengar doesn't do anything really well. He's kind of just mediocre, and he suffers from that same speedster problem we talked about earlier and in past videos. My feelings on Gengar is he's a really cool Pokemon, but he just doesn't do anything well. And if you pick him, I mean, like, he really is a poison Pokemon, because you're definitely toxic if you're picking him. Next, we have Charizard, one of the faces of the franchise. Unfortunately, Charizard just doesn't do anything well. He has a terrible laning experience, and even once he gets online, he doesn't do anything particularly special. Charizard was picked 3 times, down from 5 times, so nearly a 50% decline. Most likely, the players who were playing Charizard migrated over to Blastoise, and that makes sense because Blastoise is particularly in a good spot. So that rounds out the D tier. Next, we start the C tier with Slowbro. Slowbro is really cool still. He just got a brand new skin, which I think looks fantastic. However, he was only picked 5 times, and it's hard to justify picking him over the other defenders. Even as gimmick builds like Scald Fluffytail are unfortunately outshined by other defenders doing the same thing. You have Waterspout Blastoise with Fluffytail, and of course you have Fluffytail Crustle with Stealth Rock. So even his really cool thing is just worse than other people's version. Next, we have Venusaur. I love Venusaur. Bulbasaur was my first starter ever in Pokemon. I nicknamed it Bulby. That's useless information, but I love Venusaur. And in this game, after the buff, I still think Venusaur is really good. However, they were only picked 6 times, down from 8 times last update. I think most of his players re-rolled to Blastoise. And yeah, while I think he's great, controls a lot of space, does a lot of damage, is pretty safe, as good as I personally think they are, if he's only picked 6 times, outside of my own positive bias, it's hard to justify putting him any higher than the C tier. Next, we have another favorite of mine, and that's Crustle. Crustle's picked 6 times, up from 4, so he did get a slight increase. Stealth Rock buff made him super fun to play. He's actually one of the most entertaining Pokemon in the game, in my opinion. The problem with Crustle, however, is that he is saddled with like 8 different gimmick builds. One is the Goal Getter with Score Shield, one is the Potion build, one is the X Speed build. He's got a ton of different gimmicks. My favorite of these is the Fluffy Tail Top, where you power farm top, you control Rotom, and then like you kill Rotom so fast you can usually rotate for the Dreadnought fight, assuming teams are kind of even. This guy definitely has the potential to go up, but there's just a better defender right now, so I don't think he's going up anytime soon. Not until there are some changes. Next we have Gardevoir. Gardevoir was picked 6 times, up from 4 last time. They have a game-winning Unite move. They're strong in proper comps, and I think what really pushed them up this time was they have really good synergy with Blastoise. Like, if you throw your ult down and Blastoise does Blastoise things, that's a dead team. So, Gardevoir is still really strong. They suffer from their weak early game. Pikachu. Pikachu has insane early game still, but usually the struggle is that their late game is not very good. They were picked 7 times, down from 10, so a little bit of a decline. Pikachu also suffers from just a lack of defensive options. Their best escape move is the Volt Tackle, and if you use the Volt Tackle to iframe, you're now stuck relying on a 70-second eject button or your team to protect you. So you pretty much have to stay far away, dip in, throw your Electro Ball from max range, and dip out. Because if you try to auto-attack someone, oftentimes you're going to get smoked. Their strong early game still keeps them viable, but there are better Pokemon. And I believe that rounds out the C tier. We're going to start the bottom of the B tier with Garchomp. I talked about last time how I wanted to do Garchomp only to Masters. I haven't had time to do it yet. I believe my Garchomp only account is Ultra at the moment. And I think it's low Ultra, like Ultra 2. But I think Garchomp is really fun. If you're a fan of Tryndamere and League of Legends, they're very similar. They play like the split push Tryndamere meme. They were picked 7 times, up from 3, so they over doubled their past performance. I don't know, you call central area or top, you farm all game, you never rotate, your team fucking hates you. You get 14 or 15 level every game, and you win. You play super selfish, but, you know, it's effective. And if you wanted to, you could even stack that by taking, like, Fluffy Tail. I know a lot of top laner Garchomps take the Fluffy Tail. Some jungles do it, but most take Eject Button. You have unmatched potential to clear objectives if you have the Fluffy Tail. I think Garchomp's really fun. But yeah, it's definitely a selfish, like, solo-y playstyle. But, you know, it works. Next we have the Machamp, my old main, the homie. It's got my favorite skin in this game. Picked 8 times, unchanged from last time. You know, he's still held back by the meta, just like all the other all-arounders, except for you-know-who. Weak laning phase. You can run him in lane if you have to. It's not ideal. And if you run him in the jungle, there's better junglers. So it just feels suboptimal no matter what you do. Really fun though. And if you're starting to pick up jungle for the first time, I'd highly recommend playing him because it's a lot more intuitive. You know, you push submission, you grab the dude, and you whack him. Anyway, next up, we got Cinderace. The king is dead. And he continues to fall down the list. 10 picks down from 22, and that 22 is down from 45 the previous update. They benefited a lot from Blissey's Helping Hand. They can front to back better than Greninja. They still have things going for them. Blaze Kick is still really good. Unfortunately, since the game is blind pick, the benefits of having like a dedicated front to back character instead of Greninja is pretty low, because you're not going to know if they're like a full dive team. And it's not uncommon that you end up in situations where like the Cinderace in your team just farms. They kind of have to go central area because their lane is pretty weak, and you need that power spike from level advantage to really do anything. So like this is not a uncommon situation where I blurred the dude's name out, but I'm level 10 and he's level 4 still. Like not Greninja. Cinderace kind of suffers in the lane. You really want to be jungling with him, and if you're jungling, there are better picks. So he, unfortunately, is just suboptimal. Next, we have Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime has 10 picks, so completely unchanged from last time. He's good. He does a lot of damage. Barriers are really strong. His Unite move is really strong. He's just a good Pokemon. Above Mime, we have Zeraora. Zeraora's picked 12 times, up from 9, so small increase. Zeraora can still do like cool one-shot stuff. Zeraora is also a very intuitive jungler. And you could even lane him in certain situations. It's just a little bit harder. Unfortunately, Zeraora is held back by the jungle meta. It's very hard to justify bringing Zeraora over Greninja, other than, well, I like Zeraora. They're pretty much the only viable speedster in the game right now. And I believe they round out the bottom, they round out the top 10. And they're probably still worth picking if like someone takes like lane Greninja and stuff like that. If your other jungle options are gone, they're a good choice. And that rounds out the B tier. So next we go on to the top 9 Pokemon, which are the ones you want to be picking. You can take the B tier Pokemon and still feel really good, but the A and S tier, those are the top of the top, the most optimal. And those are the guys I like to see on my team when I'm in draft. So rounding out the bottom of A, we have Snorlax. Snorlax is really good, but they have fallen down the ladder quite a bit. We saw them actually go up during the last patch because of the Slowbro nerf, but now we've seen a sharp decline. Snorlax, 20 picks, down from 44. They're still really good. They're still one of my favorites to see a teammate lock in, but the release of Blastoise has pushed them down quite a bit, along with the nerfs they received a patch ago. He's still a lane monster. You'll still see him in pre-mades. You'll still see him in tournament. He's still very good. He still fills a niche role that the other defenders can't really fill as well. And that's just being so dominant in lane. You pair him with Ninetales, you're winning that lane. But yeah, the meta has shifted a little bit to focusing on other things, which we'll talk about later. Above him, we have Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales picked 24 times, which is the same as last time. So unchanged. It's still the best control mage in the game. They have crazy lane strength. They have unmatched CC. And Aurora Veil is just busted. Especially with their synergy with Blastoise, because Blastoise gets cooldown reduction on boosted attacks. So your Aurora Veil is actually making Blastoise even more insane. Really good Pokemon. Above them, we have the other best mage, Cramorant. 25 picks, down from 26, so pretty much unchanged. The best damage mage in the game. They have very good CC, they have a very strong lane, and late game their damage is crazy. Their Unite, you push it, you win the fight. 90% of the time. Very good Pokemon. Next we have Blissey. 26 picks, up from 21, so a little bit of an increase. They're underperforming compared to my initial prediction, but they are getting buffed today. They're getting higher special defense, and Safeguard is getting buffed to maybe be viable. Blissey is still a great Pokemon, still a top Pokemon, but they're just being outshined a little bit by another pink blob, which we'll get to. Next we have Eldegoss, 32 picks, down from 33, so a decline of 1. Still one of the best supports in the game. They dominate the lane, they have crazy synergy with everyone, and they particularly have better synergy with Blastoise than like Blissey does. Like, Helping Hand is great on Blastoise, don't get me wrong, but Eldegoss being around with Cottingard makes you unkillable. And the move speed from Leaf Tornado makes Blastoise a real threat. Eldegoss is still very good. Remember to run Muscle Band, though. Muscle Band is what really takes them to the next level. And that rounds out the A tier. Next, we have the S tier. And without any surprise, the next guy to begin the bottom of the S tier is, of course, Greninja. I had him top of A tier last time, but now I have him bottom of S tier. Like, I've never slept on Greninja, he's always been really good. 43 picks, down from 49. They're probably still the best jungler. There might be 2 contenders for better ones. There's 2 other blue-colored Pokemon that might be better junglers. Surf Reset is still an insane mechanic. Surf Execute is still incredibly good for securing objective. If you have a Wigglytuff on your team and you're Greninja, you're getting a double-digit kill game at the least. And he does have that option select. You can go to take Water Shuriken or even double team if you have to front to back their team. Like if their team comes out and it's all dive, you can do front to back instead of diving in. Or if they have all backline protection, like they're running the triple supports with like a Gardevoir, like it's very hard to dive into that with your Surf. So you can stay out and front to back them with Water Shuriken. And I don't do that personally. I should, but I just love Surf too much. Greninja's still really good, and if you're starting to become a more advanced jungler and you're trying to carry games, Greninja's probably the choice. However, we come to what everybody cares about here, and that's Blastoise. 43 picks. In his first week, 43 picks. Has already conquered the tier list. On top of being incredibly tanky, they do a ridiculous amount of damage. Like Water Spout plus Rapid Spin, and the way that he gets cooldown reduction, and the way that Rapid Spin resets the Water Spout, your damage is wild. And you don't have to aim any of your damage, really. A lot of it's just AoE. And because of his health, he's able to stay in there and do damage longer. His Unite move uptime is crazy. His frequent CC immunity is really irritating, both from Rapid Spin and from his Unite. You can dodge so much CC. And his damage is just way too high in this current build. On top of that, he's probably the most versatile character in the game. He can fill several roles, and there's multiple ways to build him. If you wanted to, you could even just be a pure support with like Surf, and you could even take like EXP share or something, and that makes him just a purely supportive character. You could do Fluffy Tail Spout in like top lane, and you can control the Rotom, and then you can rotate for the Dread. And you can even play him in the jungle. And I think he might actually be a better jungler than Greninja, although it's hard to compare because of Surf. Greninja Surf is too good. His only weakness is his kind of mediocre laning phase. You have to evolve twice. But if you're throwing him into jungle, you're avoiding that. And even if you have to lane, it's not that bad. I think if you're jungling him, and you're coming out at 14 or 15 every single game, he's really potent and a very dangerous Pokemon. Above him, we have arguably the most broken character in the game, Wigglytuff. With 45 picks, down from 52 picks. So a pretty big decline for the Wigglytuff, but I think that's because Wigglytuff players, a few of them have rotated over to try out Blastoise. I mean, what can you say about Wigglytuff? They're banned from every tournament. They have the best stats in the game. Like, their base stats are the best in almost every category. Or close to the best. Top 3 in every category, pretty much. They have the best CC. And it's not just regular CC, it's multi-layered CC, right? You have your passive, you have your boosted attack, you have your sing, and then you have a slow. Both of your the slaps, either Dazzling Gleam, do a slow. Although I believe Dazzling Gleam doesn't get the slow until it's boosted. High damage in lane, incredibly safe. They're just a free win. You can use them as part of the newly developing counter jungle meta as well, that we're seeing a lot in Korea and Japan, where you go top, you kill one of the APOMs, and then you just go straight into the enemy jungle, and you just mess with the jungle the entire game. Like, not Greninja. What is the little froggy? Froakie? The first stage of Greninja. If they're jungling, and Jigglypuff comes in and slaps them, it's really hard to deal with. Wigglytuff's just great. And I highly recommend you pick this Pokemon if your team doesn't already have one. Assuming you're like, if you're willing to fill, and you see your team doesn't have Wiggly, I think you should probably pick Wiggly. And last but not least, definitely not least, the strongest laner, the King. One of the best junglers as well. And the premier OG counter jungler. If this guy is in your jungle, level 3, doing the strat I just talked about with the Wigglytuff, you're just having an awful time. It's a horrible experience to play with Lucario just sitting in your jungle, punching you. I kind of spoiled who he is, but obviously you already know. It's the Playmaker with 57 picks in the top 100. 57. It's Lucario. Fuck Lucario.